All right, welcome to our webinar, Implementing Canary Deployments for your app in Jenkins X. We're going to go through the end-to-end scenario, and I'm going to walk you through importing an existing application, so not a quick start in Jenkins X, and we're going to put that through the pipeline, and then we're going to configure it to deploy to production. Using a configuration of 20% target audience for new features that we deploy. So let's get started. Let's see. Our agenda will be, first of all, I've already created a cluster. So I have a Jenkins X cluster configured. It's a fresh cluster, nothing in it. But we're going to install Istio and then Flagger. We're then going to import our application, and then we'll start the configuration of the Canary deployment. And then we'll view some metrics, right? I'll do that actually via the command line, so you can see as we deploy the new feature to production, it will then start showing you how many requests go to that audience, right? The percentage. So let's get started. There's some benefits to Canary deployments. I won't bother kind of explaining all of that in here, but just know that there are definitely benefits in doing this. So I'm going to go ahead and put my presentation on another window here, and now you can see my terminal. So the first thing I want to do is I need to install Istio, right? And the command for that is I kind of just have snippets here, so I'll be pasting those. I will also, by the way, share the presentation with you, the slides, a public URL, where you can follow along when you watch this video. So let's go ahead and install or download Istio. And once that is downloaded, what I want to do is move it to the binary or the bin directory, and then just make it executable, right? So we'll wait for that to download. And again, our scenario is that we are deploying or enabling Canary deployments when we deploy a new version of the app to production. Okay, so that command is done. Now the next one is I want to just move it. So I've moved that binary to the bin directory. Now all I'm going to do is set it to executable. So now if I go Istio CTL, yeah, it's working. So my next step is I need to actually configure my installation. And when you download Istio, you have the ability to pick a profile, what they call profile. This particular profile that I'm about to install actually has all the components I need for Flagger. So it's called demo. So I'll go ahead and execute that. And once this is done, then the next step is going to be to install Flagger. And that's also pretty straightforward. So all of this stuff is really creating resources in our Kubernetes cluster, right? So that is done. Let's go ahead and install Flagger. It uses customize in this scenario. Perfect. So that's done. Now one thing I like to do is just check everything is fine. So I can say kubectl or kubectl get pods, and my namespace is Istio system. Yeah, everything is running. Beautiful. Okay, so our next step is going to be to, when you install Istio, there's a load balancer that gets created. I need that IP address. And I also need that to be in my environment variable because I'm going to execute some commands. So I'm going to go ahead and paste this query to output or get that Istio host IP address. And then what I want to do is set another environment variable called Istio IP, the public IP, to that of the host. And now let's just make sure I actually get something that I found it, that is there. So there it is. Excellent. Okay, so now we have that. Again, if we want to make sure everything is installed, all we have to do is query that namespace and everything is running. That's all we need to know. Now, because our scenario involves doing this deployment to production, the namespace in Kubernetes needs to be enabled with Istio injection. And I'll show you what that is. Now, let's take a look at what namespace is we have. So there's our production namespace, right? Now, if we describe that namespace and just look at its configuration, right? You will see that there are no labels. Now, there needs to be a label there for Istio to be able to enable it for injection. So I'm going to execute a command to edit that namespace and add the label. And now if I describe it again, now you can see this is what Istio needs to know. Okay, excellent. So now we're going to go ahead and import an existing application, and that application is this one here. So this is my setup is this. Basically, I have a fictitious Jenkins X GitHub organization. You can see the environment repositories, dev, staging, production are there. And here's the application I'm going to import. Now, just to show you, there's nothing related to Jenkins X here, right? These are all standard Node.js application files. So what I want to do is, I'll put this back here and just align it. So what I want to do is actually import that application into Jenkins X. Okay. So I actually like to put all my stuff in this directory. I want to make sure I don't have it here locally because when you do an import command, it actually clones it and puts it in your local directory, wherever you're executing that command. Okay, it's not there. So let's go ahead and execute it. Notice the flag git public. That is because I have a free GitHub organization, and those must be public, right? Otherwise, I can fork out some money. So I'm going to use my personal GitHub account, which is also part of that organization. It's a member. So here's the application being imported. It's going to do a few things, detect the language. It's also going to set up a webhook for it in the repo. And now we can do this. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that to monitor the activities. That's one way to do it. It's a clean way of looking at the pipeline that just got triggered to deploy this application to the staging environment. But I also like to see what's going on, so get build logs, and that's the right pipeline name there. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. So now we have two things monitoring our deployment, right? You could also do the kubectl, get pods, and then tail that and just see, that level of activity as well. Yeah, it's overkill. So let's wait for that to happen. So once this happens, we are going to enable. Well, I'll explain. I'll show you this slide actually. The goal is to deploy the app once to production, because you need to have something there first before you can then roll out a new feature, and say only show 20% of my audience that, right? So we'll wait for this to happen. So far, so good. Knock on wood. Live stuff always fails, almost. Alright, so this is looking good. It looks like the pipeline to promote this application into staging. There's the pull request. That's gonna trigger that, right? And if we look at this in the browser, I want to show you what's happening here. That's what's happening right now. The bot said, hey, I got a version of the app. It's going to be deployed. Obviously, it's not going to be approved right away. There's some checks to happen. So now there's a build going on right now, which will then promote this to production, right? So we'll let that PR in the staging environment repo get merged. And so that's what we're waiting for here on the lower left of our window. Almost done. Now if we should be able to view the files there on the lower right corner terminal. You can see that Jenkins X, before putting it through the initial pipeline to deploy it to staging, it added some files like the scaffold YAML you see here. It added the charts folder with a couple of charts, and it added the Jenkins-X YAML file there, as you can see. Just wanted you to see that, right? There are some files that got automatically added. Now, the cool thing is you don't have to know Helm to be able to use Jenkins X. You just saw that it created it for me. Okay, it looks like the pull request in the staging environment. This is all GitOps too, right? So think about configuration as code, and then the source of the truth being Git. Now in this case, the app is now officially deployed to our staging environment. And just so you can see what that means, there was a file modified in the staging environment that tells Jenkins X, hey, by the way, there's an app that needs to be there. And that's the requirements under environment or requirements YAML. There's the version that it says it needs to be there, right? Got merged. So at this point, if I actually take a look at applications, there it is. Now, is it going to work? Let's see. Oh, look at that. Okay. So far, so good. We have our application in staging, and now we need to promote it. All right, let's do a first deployment into production. So I'm going to take this back here out of your screen, and let's do, how do you promote it to production? Well, that's our next step, right? So bear with me. I have a command. All right. So notice the version there is 62. So what I'm going to do is say, okay, I want to promote that app and I want to promote the version I want to promote is 62. And that's it. So now I can hit enter. Again, it's going to go through some background processes, including doing PR in this production environment repo. Right there it is, the sunrise, tequila sunrise. I always name my clusters with a favorite drink. Have some fun with it. I was actually thinking of doing a generator to do that, like a random name based on that. So it's doing the PR, and we can watch the PR either here, or of course always via the browser, because all it's doing, the bot is interacting with GitHub in our case, doing its thing, right? So there's a promotion build pending. What does that mean? It means that there's a pipeline running to promote that, right? So we have to wait until that PR is merged. Now I can say JX get build logs again to see what's happening, and now pick my pipeline for production to see the details of what's happening, right? So far so good. It looks like our chart, remember we use Helm, and our chart now is being stored, that version of the app, into production. There it is. So this should merge fairly quickly, and when we get all applications for Jenkins X, we should see two environments, right? So JX get applications is the command I'm talking about. Right now you only see one URL, which is for staging, as you can see. Now, one thing I like to do, there it is. So it looks like the trigger to merge it, or the merged PR in production is done. So now we can say cube cuddle, get pods, JX production, and just watch it. That will tell us once in the background, again, there's resources that get created, pods, ingress, annotations. We use expose controller, which by the way is going to be deprecated, and you should probably keep up with this via the Jenkins X newsletter. So okay, it's doing its thing, and if we execute this again, it is still not there. But if we do JX get build logs, and we look at that master branch PR, there it is, right? So on the lower right, my resources already are starting, they're being provisioned as expected, right there. So it successfully deployed it. I should be able to see, yeah, there's my production URL. So let's click on it, and let's see if it actually deployed it. So there's my production URL, right? Pretty cool. All right, we're ready to move to the next step. And so what's our next step? Well, we need to make a change in the application itself, and then first configure the Cannery settings. So let's go through that. So I'm going to go back to my presentation here and just look at the next step. So all right, so now one thing we want to do is we're going to set another environment variable. Might as well do that now. So I'm gonna clear that, and it's the Cannery address for my app. Okay, so I'm setting it up for later use. And now what I'm going to do is let's see, yep, we're also going to watch our production environment. So I'm gonna watch it on the lower screen here, just for changes. And actually, let's try that. All right, so we're gonna watch for new changes there as soon as we deploy it. And so let's go ahead and edit the application. So code, skip. So here's our application. Now we need to make a few changes. Let's see. Yeah, we need to make a change to the production environment repository, right? The change for enabling Canary deployments for this application will be at that level, not in the Helm chart of the application. So with that said, I'm going to do this. I like to clone those environments here, so I'm going to the environment repo, clone it locally. So I'm going to grab my snippet of code and do that. cd environment. Okay, and now I'm going to open this up, and in our requirements, or in our values I should say, let's close this up. We're going to add some stuff here. Okay, so the snippet of code, I'm gonna actually, there's two ways of doing this. I could do it here this way, which is pretty cool and declarative and all, but I actually have a snippet already which does it via the command line. And let me just show you what I mean. So I'm in this directory, so I'm gonna change directory to that file that I want to modify is that values, right? So in lieu of doing the modification on the file here, I'm manually, I'm just gonna paste this and add it to it. Now let's see, no such file. Oh, wait a minute. Sorry, I should not have changed directory. I should have left it where on the root. So let's try this again. There it is. All right, so I have this new entry, as you can see, from line 25 to 28, right? That's what I want. So what is our next step? Well, our next step is going to be to save these changes that we just made to our production environment, right? And check in our code. So I'm going to do in a single line, check all this stuff into the production repo. Okay, so that is done. Now we are going to, we're pretty much ready to promote, or let's make a change. So we're gonna have to make a change to the application, right? So let's go through that, because now we're ready to be able to do this. So I'm gonna close this because we don't need it anymore. And you can see that the change to the production environment is happening because I told it, hey, there's in the values file, there's some stuff you need to be aware of. So that's what's happening down here. It's fine. Let's go ahead and go into our app. So let me see if I have it open here. Yes, I do. So here's our repo. And you can see the charts here. You know, there's this chart, the preview chart, all that good stuff. We need to make a change to trigger the pipeline. It's going to go from a feature branch we'll do a feature branch. We'll check in our code. It will get deployed to staging. So a new version of staging will be there. So right now is 62. It'll be 63 in staging and 62 in production. Right. Our goal is to move 63 into production with Cannery enabled. So that's next. Okay. So let's go ahead and do that. So I have a snippet I'm using to create a branch. So let's go ahead and do that. It's a homepage change. And now I'm going to go ahead and make that change. So one of the things I'd like to do is actually in the navigation of the site, I'm going to do this. Just adding the label, changing the label in one of those, right? And that's it. That's the big difference. So I'm going to go ahead and check that in. And now this won't trigger a pipeline yet because now we did this differently. Now we actually created a feature branch. So the next thing to do is actually trigger that by going to, I think with Hub you can do that, like trigger the PR, but I haven't really tested that. So I'm just gonna go to the app itself. But before I do that, I want to show you something. So this is what we changed. The label contact should say production change contact. Okay, so we're gonna make sure that happens. But before that, I'm going to do a pull request. And so here's the app, right? You can see, I should see something here. Let's see, did I actually, I'm going to do a pull request. And the branch is, what do we call that? Homepage change. So let's see, is it there? Huh, let's see. I haven't pushed it. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay. So now it should show up here. In fact, typically you see the message there. Let's do a pull request. Change global navigation, right? So I'm going to go ahead and trigger that. Now this is triggering the bot to do a new pipeline to deploy, as you can see, into staging our change, right? So we'll monitor that. I like to do JX get activities, and it's the ski app. Oh. Let's do the build logs. I prefer that. And that's the PR on the ski app. You see PR 10. So let's see what's happening there. So I'll move this out of your screen. We know what's happening there. And then what we're going to do is list the versions of the application, so you know what's happening. So again, we have version 62 in staging running. We're changing it right now. The pipeline is triggered to make that change to the global now. And our production is 62 still. Notice there's no URL. That's the way things are with Istio, because it's pointing to that load balancer that we set up, right? So let's let that finish. And then let me take a look here. Yeah. So we'll let that finish. All right. So As soon as that deploys and is in production, I want to be able to see it here to say we have version 63 and staging. So far, so good. It's actually another thing that's happening. It's creating in this, because we created a feature branch and we asked for a merge of that PR. It's going to actually create a preview environment, right? So to let others know to take a look at the change, right? Before we approve it into staging. So we'll take a look at the preview environment so you can see it. It's a temporary environment that helps people view your changes as a developer or a user interface designer, right? So let's see. There it is. So it's creating the snapshot of the ski app, as you can see there. It concatenates it with the PR numbers, as you can see. And then it throws that image into the repository, the registry. And now it's promoting the preview. That's just the pipeline, the step to be able to provision all the resources, ingress, whatever, and namespace to view this change, right? So almost done there. And so once this is done, we're going to take a look at the application change in the preview environment, make sure it's there, and then we're going to say, yeah, approve it, right? This gives you the view of the chat ops and how that works. That's important, right? So there it is. It's actually creating the ingress annotations and whatnot. There's the namespace it created. All temporary. All of this stuff gets deleted. We have a cron job that goes through and deletes stuff, or you can do it manually with JX, GC, and there's several options for you there. Okay, so according to this, the application's available in the temporary spot. So what happens if I click here? You want to see it in action? There it is. So, right, it's not production and it's not staging. It's a temporary preview environment. This is great. And there's our change. You see the global navigation change. I like it. So let's go ahead and promote it, right? So the way to promote it is I want to show you the full life cycle of this. It created the preview environment, and check out. The bot tells me that I could click here and it goes to that, right? That's pretty cool. Now it's ready for the approval. As you can see, it's like, all I'm waiting for is the approval. This looks pretty good. I happen to be one of the approvers in the repo, so I could say approve. Boom. Now this is going to trigger yet another pipeline to promote it to staging because my changes look good. And then from there, we're going to go to production. The big difference is in production, we're going to do the whole Cannery thing. So, okay. That's going to trigger that. So I'm going to move this back here. And now let's take a look at the build blocks. And you can see that it's doing that PR. So that's actually good right there. There should be another one for staging. Let's see what happens. Make sure here. Did I approve it? Yeah, it's merged. All right, we should see a new pipeline here. There it is. All right. So we'll let that finish. And there's that version 63 I told you, right? It's just incrementing it. So being tracked for us in code. That's the Helm chart version, by the way. And so one of the things I like to do is I could say JX get applications and monitor when we go from 62 to 63. Now I know it's not there yet because I'm looking at the detail of the build right here. It's doing the whole build of the image, so we'll wait for that. So far so good, knock on wood. All right. Okay, so now it's doing the pull request on the staging like expected. We're gonna wait for that to merge. And then here really is where we get into the interesting part, right? We enabled Canary deployments for that app at the environment level, right? We edited the production environment with some YAML. We pasted it there, telling it, yes, this app in particular requires that configuration. Now, while this is going on, let me just show you that again so you see. So let's go to the production environment, YAML. So in that values file, we added this, right? That's important. So let's go ahead and move that back and go back to my presentation here. Okay, so let's see. I'm gonna move this away. We don't need it right now. Okay, so we're waiting for this PR to merge. And then we'll just double check the staging environment that has our global navigation change before we promote it with Cannery to production, right? And then we'll monitor it in production to see how many requests, 20% of those requests should be going and showing the new global navigation item. So let's take a look. Okay. Okay, we still see it's not done. It's okay. Should be done shortly. I get too impatient sometimes. Okay, there is let's see, we'll let this finish. There's another environment variable I need to set in one of my terminal windows to be able to execute a command to monitor the Cannery, but we'll get to that. Well, let's see what the status is right on the browser, right? So let's see. Still, the PR is still open. So the promotion build, that's the pipeline, it hasn't finished, so that's good. As soon as it does, we'll see that. We should see that completed soon. So we'll wait for that to finish. Let's see. See what's happening in the logs, right? So I'm just gonna monitor that build It looks like it added the repo or the version of the Helm chart into Chart Museum, so we should be seeing that pretty soon. All right, the PR looks like is merged, and now in the background the resources are being updated, like with the exposed controller and all that stuff. So pretty soon we should see that version of the app in staging changed to 63. So the other command we can do is, get pods and JX staging and watch it. Watch for changes. So yeah, there it is. Now it's doing its thing, right? Okay, cool. So now let's get the applications. There it is, 63. That's what we want, okay? So now production has 62, an older version, and we have our new changes with the global nav on staging. We are ready to promote it. Let's go to a setting here. But before I do that, I'm going to copy a environment variable here. Give me a sec. Do I have it? I believe that's correct. And then we can do, let me double check here. No. Istio. Yeah, the IP is correct. Okay, cool. So I need this one here and this terminal to execute a command and monitor it before we deploy it, okay? So, all right, we have that. I'm going to just execute that command. It's very simple, actually. It's just watching production, right? And grepping for that keyword in the global nav. When you do that, it should show red, like it found it. So let's go ahead and promote the app. So we are ready. So, and again, let's just double check, right, the version. Yep. So let's modify our command. Now that we have Cannery enabled, we're gonna say 0.0.63. We're gonna promote it to production. That looks pretty good. So let's go ahead and hit enter. Again, this is going through some stuff internally. It's gonna do a PR in the production environment and all that good stuff, as you can see there. So I'm gonna kick off this command here, which once it gradually starts getting deployed to specific audience, we should be seeing the word production in red here. And it takes a little while, right? Now, one of the things that I want to show you is you can check if production is enabled with Canneries by just executing that command. And I do in fact have that. Now, we should see the weight, we should see this changing to progressing I think is the status, instead of initialized. So let's look out for that, but it's premature. We have to first make sure that this PR gets merged into production, right? So let's wait for that to happen. And then of course we can monitor the production environment for changes, but we'll do the get build logs. And there's the PR. That's the one we care about. So far, it looks like it did its thing. So let's wait. And we can always go to the browser and check the PR status, right? So looks like it got merged. So pretty soon we should be able to see this successfully. There it is. Do you wish to use? Yes, I do. So I'm just gonna hit enter. Okay. Now we can check the build logs. And there's the promotion pipeline. It got triggered just now. Now we should start seeing gradually our application get deployed. And the way it's going to happen is here we're going to start seeing, well, I'm only checking and grepping for that production keyword because that's the one we have in the global navigation, right? So let's wait for this pipeline to finish. I can also do kubectl get pods namespace JX production and watch them for a change. There it is. So it's actually making the change now. And there is what we want to see. It's deleting the previous stuff, 62, and it should roll out 63. So when that happens, we are going to see on the lower right side of my screen the word production in red for every so often, right? Depending on what we said. We said 20%. So we'll wait for that. Let me see here what else I have. So let's see what's happening with the Cannery. So it's doing its thing here with kubectl. As you can see, it's rebuilding the resources, right? So now if I execute it's progressing now. You see the status change. This is great. And we can monitor that. It should change and the weight should change. So we should see that value change as soon as it starts serving up the new global navigation. So let's see. Let's make this a little bit smaller here. All right. This should do it. There it is. So it looks like it is progressing. So if I just take a look at the percent, there's 20% right there. We should start seeing something over here on the right. Let's see. So right now, all requests are going to the old one. Do something here while this is happening. So you can see the age of the Cannery pods. So we should start seeing something soon. And then the other thing I want to show you while this is happening is if we do JX get applications, we should see version 63 is now in production as well as in staging, right? And these are our pods. So we should start seeing something here. Let's see. It's still progressing, so we'll let it do its thing. It takes a little while. All right, so let's continue monitoring that. Checking my notes here. And we can show the status as well. It should show success. So if I do this, oh, wait 1 second. Mix something up here. Let's make sure the environment is there. That should be it. Let's make sure we're hitting the Cannery address. It seems correct. Let me expand this here. Waiting for rollout to finish. Okay, that's good. So it's still progressing. Let's see. Type promoted. Phase progressing. That is the right address. Now if I go on the browser, my settings correct here. Let's see. Oh, I think I forgot a step. All right, let me make sure I did this right. Okay, Canary failed. Actually, this is a good way to show you the process, right? It's automatically rolling back the version because something failed, right? So there you can see the status, right? and then the just 12 seconds ago we get these messages. So scaling it down. This is great, a great example. Now I'm going to move this back over here, and we'll take a look. We'll take a look at what's going on, but actually, let's get the applications. So right now it's 63. It should roll back to 60 to 62. So we'll monitor that. And in the meantime, let's see. Yeah, it's not getting it. So you can see all the steps that happen, right? So it started rolling out the new version, initialized it, the new revision was detected, and then starting the analysis. It did all that, and then advanced it with that weight, and then this right here was the issue. Like somehow it wasn't no values found for Istio metric, so we're going to figure that out, and so it's rolling it back, right? That's sort of where we are. So we'll wait for this to roll back. And let's see. Yep. So let's wait for that to happen. In the meantime, I'm going to double check my notes here. So if actually if I show you my presentation, the slides, which by the way you'll have access to them. So we did all this, right? We went to install Flagger, all that good stuff. We got the Istio host. We exported the Istio IP, and we made sure the production namespace is enabled for injection. We imported our existing app. This is the plan for Canneries, and now this right here, we should have it here, right? So if we just do so, that's the correct IP address. So based on that IP address, I can create the Cannery address, right? I can predict what that's going to be because I'm using so if I do, just to double check, production, ski up, yep, right. So I want to ensure that wherever I'm creating it here, or making requests, I want to make sure it's here. So there it is, production, JX ski up. That looks correct to me. Okay, so we did that, and then we cloned the production repository and made a change. So the specific change, I think what I missed is this, I believe I missed the host. It didn't create that, so that was the problem. In fact, if I go into the production environment repository right now, this is it. I'll just refresh it. Guess what? The host is blank. Okay, so this is really good to know, by the way. Now, what we're going to do is we are going to make a change and add that, right? So for some reason, my command, I'll do this, you know. I executed this, and somehow the Cannery address was not set. So I'm just going to grab the value and modify that manually. Okay, so I'm going to go into, let's go move this back over here, And so we found the problem. Now let's fix it. So I'm going to go into the production. So let's open it up. It's right here. I'm going to say code. And under environment, yes, the host is empty indeed. So let's go ahead and change that, and we'll roll out our change again. Okay. So I'm going to copy this because that's actually the host here. And I'm going to paste it here. Okay. There it is. So that's what was missing. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to say git add and then commit it and say added missing host and git push. Now this is going to trigger a pipeline again to modify the environment. Oh, let's see what's happening here. Okay. Email to first integrate. Yes, yes. So if we do this, so I'm going to merge what we had. Okay, because we made a change, and now we have it here locally. Let's look at the status. Should be able to push there. Okay. There's our change. That's what was missing. So let's go ahead and now I'd like to yeah, we're gonna monitor the changes on production real quick. So I'm gonna say there's a command that I want to use. Give me a sec. Yeah. So we'll just do all it's doing is we're waiting for the production master change to be merged before we proceed and try this Canary deployment again, right? We were missing, I was basically sending requests to the Canary address, but the Canary address, the host value on the configuration was empty, so of course it was not receiving traffic. So now our change is being deployed to production. That's good. So it's making the changes to the resources in production. Okay. Let's go ahead and set this back like this. So we definitely you saw how easy it is to look at the status of your Cannery, right? Deployment just by executing this command. And we'll do that again. But first I want to get applications. All right, so let's wait for that. And we're gonna make another change, trigger another change, and then send it over, okay? So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm gonna go into the app. Here it is. So we did this change here. I'm just going to say any change really. Now I'll leave that same branch, in fact, right? Typically you want to create another feature branch and whatnot, but it's okay. So I'm going to say about us. So instead of just about, I'll say about us. So now we'll still have that previous change we wanted, and this just to trigger the pipeline. So git status, and I'm going to commit it and say modified global nav again, and git push. All right, now I'm going to go into the browser here, and I'm going to show you here. We're going to do the pull request, and it's going to be that homepage change. So there should be something. There it is. I'm going to go ahead and trigger it. We'll let this go through. Same process as before, and it does take a little while. So we'll let that go through. I'm going to go ahead and switch back here. We can monitor things. So, you know, we can do JX get build logs. And notice the app is going to go to version 64 now, right? So we have 63 in prod. We're going to go from 64 in staging to and update the version in production while doing it with Canary Deployment. So that's going to be pretty cool now that we have our setting correct. So there's our PR for the app. Let's let that finish. Okay, that is running my tests. You know, typical Node.js application. You have Mocha.js test, whatever. It's running those. That's great. Building the image and publishing it to the registry. And now it's updating the chart and pushing it to Chart Museum. And if we do kubectl get ponts and JX staging namespace and watch it, just to make sure, so you can see the age is 26 minutes there, so we should see new pods for staging shortly. So we'll have to approve that PR, right? Because there's the whole process. It's creating the preview environment again. So we'll let that finish. And there's the preview environment. We could click on it and see the change. So here's the about us instead of just about, including our original change. So that's great. Now we're gonna approve it because I like the change. So there's, again, pretty familiar. Now we're just gonna say, yes, I want to approve this change. Okay, and this is gonna trigger that pipeline to finally make it into staging, which is what we want. So I'll move it back here, and it triggered another pipeline, so we should see it here. There's the, I don't believe it's that one. It should be for staging. Oh, I'm pretty sure this one's done. Yeah, that was for the preview environment. So pretty soon I should see, let's see. Check the status here. Okay, it just acknowledged, the bot just acknowledged that the app is, the PR is approved. So let's give it a minute here so it can merge. Okay, it just merged it. So now our pipeline to staging should be triggering shortly. Let's see. So it's updating. Let's give it a minute. So there it is, the version 64 now, right? That's the version we will promote to production using Cannery configuration. there's our checks, our Mocha.js fake tests. All right, so should be done soon. There, it saved the tar file to chart museum, and now it's doing the pull request in the staging environment as expected, right? So we're gonna wait for that to merge, and then we're gonna execute that promote command again to go version 64. We need it to be in production, which currently has 63, except we're gonna really now monitor the percentage of traffic serving up the new version with production, the keyword production, right, via the terminal like I was doing before. Okay, so we'll wait for this to happen. On this terminal on the bottom left, we should see the resources recreated shortly. You see the age is 26 minutes, so we should see something change pretty soon. So let's wait for that. All right, almost merged. I'm missing the fun on Twitter. All right, so this is almost done. And our command here on the bottom right to monitor the deployment will work this time. Damn it. So let's just bring it up here. Prep it. That's it right there. All right. So we'll be ready to monitor that shortly once we promote it. So let's also get that command ready to promote the app. So there it is. So it just merged the change into staging, and now the new resources are going to be rebuilt with the new version of the app in staging, which is 64. So on the bottom left corner, we should see those resources, the pods recreated. So let's wait for that. My dog's usually around. Okay, so let's take a look. JX get applications. We should see 64 on staging soon. So, and we should see right here on the lower left the change pretty soon. So there it is. Okay, good. So now we should see version 64 on staging, and there it is. We are ready to promote this to our environment now. One thing I'm going to do is let's bring that promote command again. So I'm kind of lazy to paste it again, but I guess I should, huh? So, there it is. Okay, so let's go and promote this new change to version 64. We want it in production. So let's go ahead and hit OK. And we're going to start monitoring like we did last time. And then the other command I'm going to execute to monitor the cannery is going to be this right here. I'm going to do that, and I'm just going to watch it. Oops. So that was the previous one, right? I'm going to give it a little bit of time. The command that I also executed in the first try was this one, which shows us the progress. So this is the status from the previous one. You can see this timestamp. I don't really care about that. I'm waiting for this PR to merge so that it can trigger the pipeline to deploy the version 64, at which point we should see on the two bottom terminals changes. So let's wait for that. Should be almost done here. All right, there it is. That's what we want to see, and I want to say yes. So hit enter. There. So that triggered the promotion of the new version into production. And to confirm that, I can say qcuddle get pods and production and watch it. So you see the age of those is like 50 something minutes. So we're going to start seeing new resources there. And as soon as we do, we're going to also at the bottom start seeing a new status for the Canary deployment, which that's what we want, right? And then on the bottom right, we should see the word production in red for 20% of the traffic I'm sending to the application. So okay, first step, there it is. New resources being created in production for our application. Okay. Awesome. So that looks pretty good. Let's take a look at what's happening. Now the status of the Cannery is progressing, which is exactly what we want, right? So pretty soon on the right lower corner, we should start seeing the word production in red. So let me check something here. There's still some that are old, as you can see, so we need that to change. And the status needs to change with the weight of 20%. So on the lower left, that weight from 0 to 20 should be changing. Oh, there it is. There it is. You see, now not all traffic, not every request is hitting the new version, just what we specified, right? There it is again, production. And that right there is how you deploy Canary deployments or implement Canary deployments for your application in Jenkins X. I hope you enjoyed it, and any feedback you can give me. You can reach me on Twitter, or we're going to send out an email with the YouTube URL that will save this, and so you can watch it in your own time. And thank you for watching. I'll also share the slides with the URL for the slides so that you can follow through as you go. Okay. Thanks again, and stay safe out there. And we'll talk soon.